Hello and welcome to The Entrepreneurs on Monocle Radio, the show all about inspiring people, innovative companies and fresh ideas in global business. In the week that Paris welcomes the world for an unrivaled sporting celebration, our programme focuses on French ingenuity and manufacturing tradition. First, we'll meet the founder of a boutique electric motorcycle company that started in a small garage in Bayonne.
It's a really different approach. Instead of, a mobility instrument to be compared based on the size of the power, we blend culture, innovation, technology, and just the right touch of madness in our design.
Then we'll meet the founders of a Parisian beauty brand that aims to reinvigorate the country's brush-making legacy.
The brush industry is born in France, in the south of France. And actually it's a little bit like the perfume industry, the cosmetic industry. There is something very French in that part of the luxury business.
This is The Entrepreneurs, with me, Tom Edwards. You're listening to The Entrepreneurs. Simon Dabadi is the founder and CEO of Dab Motors, an electric motorcycle company he launched 7 years ago. An engineer by training, Simon had always been immersed in the motorcycle industry. He identified a gap in the market for unique, beautifully designed bikes and took the opportunity to create something different in his small garage with just a 3D printer and a computer. His designs quickly gained traction, establishing his reputation in the custom motorcycle scene. After initially making his name with luxury petrol bikes, Simon's big breakthrough came in 2021 with an electric motorcycle concept, leading to collaborations with high-end brands like Burberry and eventually an acquisition by Peugeot Motorcycles, one of the oldest manufacturers in the world. I caught up with Simon to hear about the impressive journey. He began by telling me about balancing his passion for beautiful design with his background in precision engineering.
It's always been a frustration for me as an engineer to not infuse, enough subjectiveness and emotion in mechanical design. And design and engineering was always my dilemma when I was young. I chose engineering, but I also work in design in different projects. That's why I'm sensible about it. And so at DAB, everything we do it to steer away from the norms of motorcycling in general and to bring more contrast in the industry and in the world in general. And I really believe that humans need more emotion, art and beauty, even in machines. And so how we do that, we forget everything we know about motorcycling, basically. That's the beauty of electric motorcycle. You can start from scratch. And we create art pieces instead of, instruments, mobility instruments to be compared based on the size of the power. It's really a really different approach, and we infuse design and art in those very special motorcycles. So we blend culture, innovation, technology, and just the right touch of madness in our design. So that's basically how we do it. And at the end, we craft quite disruptive motorcycle for people who dare. It's really different, than just mobility industry. It's more challenging. We try to create objects of desire, which are also very efficient for every day.
Yeah, I love that. And I think this idea of looking at what happens at this intersection, of course, of a sustainable future, of the greening of transportation, but then the great design component, the innovation in engineering, such exciting stuff happens at that, where all of those things meet. And just on that point, Simon, let me ask you about the challenge or the opportunity that comes from taking something that's quite niche. You mentioned this idea of, of a studio, this idea of a custom approach, something that's special, for your members, but then suddenly getting it kind of supercharged by the involvement of a business like Peugeot Motorcycles. Does that offer all of us something of a template for the way to deliver a more progressive mobility solution? You mix cutting-edge innovation with the support and the scale of bigger players. Does that need to happen more?
Yeah, sure. So the biggest challenge you have when you are a young brand or a startup is taking the step of industrialization. It's really hard to replicate an object many times, and that was my challenge until Peugeot came. So I was able to, build limited edition, 20, 30 bikes, but it was really, really exhausting, time consuming. And so the price were really expensive, which was normal because I spent a lot of time building those bikes. So the next step for me was to bring this design more available to people and fun who really wanted to ride this bike, but it wasn't, accessible. We are still in the premium market, but thanks to, industrialization, we lower all our costs because we improve everything, work with real supplier from the industry. So now we have kind of an interesting mix. We have one side, the Peugeot factory, who allow us to serial produce the bike, have a repeatability in our production, controlling all the quality with the best technician engineer in the world. And on the other side, we still have DAB and the DAB minds designing cutting-edge design, try to break the norms, to reinvent a lot of things. And the mix of those two entities is really interesting.
Talk to me about the bikes themselves, because you've mentioned the innovation and design. Obviously, they're arrestingly beautiful to look at. Talk to me about the challenge of blending form and function and how that changes. Obviously, you've worked so often, as a sort of one-man band, with your 3D printer in Bayonne in the southwest of France, and then suddenly you're scaling up. Does that mean you have to change how you approach the challenge, especially with something like a bike that has such dynamism, and how you're blending those components? Talk to us about how these different values come together in the machine itself.
Generally, we don't like to compromise. So the main challenge between the concept bike, so the prototype, and the serial production was not changing the exterior appearance of the bike because people love it and also us. So the main challenge was to keep the bike identical to the original proof of concept. So we managed to do it at, I think, 95%, and we are really proud of. But we changed, honestly, everything on the bike, improve everything, but you cannot see it. We improve the quality of the chassis. We design a completely new powertrain. We design our own suspension, our own brake disc, everything. But it's hard to see the difference between the concept and the final production bike because we try to make it invisible to keep the same singular design. But the bike now is twice the power than the original prototype. So it's a really, really tough challenge to improve everything without making change on the exterior design. And yeah, I think that was the most challenging thing that we've done on this bike.
And just on the kind of bigger mobility picture, it's interesting. So there's so much conversation, of course, about the electrification of personal transport globally in our cities. And this is something that Monocle's very interested in. But I sometimes think that the debate focuses too much on four wheels and actually not enough on two. And if you look at most markets, particularly in the developing world, in emerging markets, what there are in these cities, millions and millions and millions of bikes. Do we sometimes not give the bike its place? That's what's going to drive change on a mass scale, isn't it? If you look at some of these huge markets.
Yeah, this is where the huge potential is. We know that we have huge problem because of the cars in the big cities. And that's why we are using actually two-wheelers. But the current also two-wheelers, petrol bike also have a lot of issue, mainly environmental because of the noise and the CO2 emission. So naturally, the electric bike will replace the petrol bike inside the city. I'm not saying it will replace all the petrol bikes because you cannot use the technology right now for, very long trip. But for urban mobility and peri-urban mobility, it's ready. So it will replace it. And the potential is enormous. You have a lot of startup and concepts that are releasing every day, but indeed there is only few key brands right now on the market, and we really want to be on the top list of those brands.
Yeah, it's a great aspiration to have, a great ambition. Talk to me a bit more about manufacture, because I mentioned, your heritage as a sort of one-man band there in Bayonne, and now obviously you've got greater scale, you've got more resource. But I know there's still this focus on making something that is really sustainable and looking at a locality of production, trying to keep supply chains more local. How important is it, Simon, to try and think about sustainability, not just in terms of materials or electric versus petrol, but but also in these other ways, looking at more integrated supply chains, a locality in production, because that's part of the DAB brand as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. We always work like that. At the beginning, it was here in Bayonne, working with my small team of artisans, It was really bespoke. And I wanted to keep this approach of local manufacturing. Now it's wider because we work with all Europe, but still it makes sense for us, and we really believe in that. We have a huge know-how in Europe in automotive and motorcycle manufacturing, and we are really proud to work with the best supplier in the world, like Brembo for the brake, Rental for the underbar, and a lot of fabulous guys. And for me, it's really important to keep that, and also this is how you innovate. You are much faster in your development process. You can innovate more, and it's a great value for our clients. Today's all the products you buy are manufactured too far from home, and that doesn't make sense for me. So that's why I really want this. I really want to keep this a local approach when we are manufacturing the bikes, and that's why we decided, to make fewer products to give ourselves every chance of doing them well, because it's important for us. So every product we release must be perfect and iconic. And there is no need to change a good product if it satisfies its owners. So this is how we see things. And we really want to inspire our members and customers to consume better, but in style. This is our approach. It's really hard to make a big change in your life if it's not really exciting. Generally, people want some thrills and inspiration to evolve. And this is our main mission, Inspire to consume better, thanks to electric technology, but also a different way of producing the bike, and also a different way of recycling the bike, because we also integrated interesting technology in our batteries, which allow us to use it for a very, very long time and repair it, which is, everybody knows that the battery is the main point of discussion when we talk about electric mobility.
Well, yeah, and we constantly come back on this program to this idea of sustainability also being about building better, buying less, but buying better. And that's one way you can address how much waste there is in some of these businesses. Just from a kind of inspiration point of view, I know you studied and trained as an engineer. You've worked for other celebrated names in motorcycle design and engineering, likes of Yamaha and so on. Where does your inspiration, though, on a day-to-day come from, Simon? Because I always find this interesting to ask creative folks. Is it particular brands? Obviously, I guess you also get inspired from outside of engineering, right? And outside of bikes. What kind of things inspire you? How do you do that? Because I guess for creative people, they have to make sure they're still getting fresh ideas and getting exposed to new approaches. Is that about where you go, who you meet, what you do? How do you source that inspiration? I'm
inspired by different things. So I try to get out of the engineering road because it was quite conventional, and I realized it was not enough for me. So I'm a lot interested in fashion and tech and also music. About fashion, I'm quite fascinated about luxury fashion because I have a huge respect for what they are doing with a brand, just a brand, and also with their product. There are absolutely no limit in terms of creativity, and they are able to make people dream. And this is something that fascinated me. And I really want to do the same with DAB. There is no reason for me to create something which is quite standard or boring. I don't know. I don't have any reason to do that. So I just have a huge admiration for this kind of industry. And and the rest is mainly tech. It can be smartphones, like the Nothing Phone brand, which is quite inspiring. Can be music, artists, also jewelry. I love jewelry, all kind of different things.
Exactly. Well, and I think those broad interests, it reflects the breadth of your interests. You can see that in the products. And I know you've done some amazing collaborations. And indeed, you've worked presumably with lots of the musical artists, for example, who you love, who are customers now, which must be a real thrill. Is there a fantasy collaboration or partner? Is there a music act, for example, Simon, that you would love above all to work with on a product? I know you're always tantalizing us with new collaborations and such like, but is there a bit of a dream? It doesn't even have to be a living artist, someone from the past. I don't know. I'd like to see the Prince times DAB bike, but anyone on your roster that you'd love to work with?
Honestly, I never thought of that. I'm quite interested in the music, but it's more about brand. And also, I love sound systems. So, in France, we have De Vialet, which is a great manufacturer of sound system. So this is more the kind of collaboration I'm picturing. De Vialet or Bang & Olufsen, all those kind of stereo builder. I don't know how you call it in English, but yeah.
No, I think that would be amazing. As you said, and they're brands that embody the same kind of values that DAB explores so elegantly in its products.
And also the sound is quite a challenging thing in an electric vehicle, as you know, because there is no sound, and I would love to develop a sound design with those guys. So yeah, it would be mainly with this kind of brand I would love to work if it's music related, because we can do some crazy thing. I think Hans Zimmer did it with BMW. So yeah, it would be amazing. And now I'm thinking if I can do a collaboration with Daft Punk to create the sound, which are separated, unfortunately, so it's not possible. So it will be from the past. It would be amazing. The sound design of the bike, it would be crazy.
I love the idea of that. Obviously, we're a radio station, right? So we love the idea of rich sonic tapestries. What noise do the bikes make? Because like cars, you have to make them make some kind of sound, or is just tire friction? Does that make enough noise?
So the sound is kind of spaceship sound, It's not very loud. That's why I think we can still do some fun thing with the bike, try to improve the experience. So right now it's a small spaceship sound, which is quite enjoyable. It's not completely silent because you have the belt and the electric motor, which is doing some noise also. Okay,
so there's a limited soundscape. I think this is a really interesting area, Simon, to explore. We'll have to come back to you once you've launched your next collaboration. Maybe just a final thought, Simon. What are you most excited about? I guess as you have opportunities to grow and scale, to explore these collaborations, that must be really thrilling for you. Or I don't know, are you more excited about the big picture? How, electrification is going to change our cities? Just give me a sense of what you're most excited about day to day.
Yeah, I think, as you said, the most exciting thing about this job is try to get this product that we are building in the cities. And once we manage to do that, to see some DAB in big cities with people with some smile on the face of the riders, I think I won't be done, but I would be really happy to see that. And also it will solve a lot of problems. When you go to Paris, it's quite a nightmare. When you go there is a lot of noisy scooter everywhere. And if we manage to convince people to change their habits and stop noisy vehicle, I would be quite happy. But to do that, we need to keep inspire people, and we won't stop till we get to that point.
That was Simon Dabadi. You can learn more about the brand and check out those beautiful bikes by heading to dabmotors.com. You're listening to The Entrepreneurs. Fleur de Robert and Pauline Laurent are the founders of Bonne, Brosse, a luxury hair care brand featuring a collection of brushes thoughtfully crafted in France, following centuries-old artisanal traditions. Fleur and Pauline have a combined 40 years of experience between them in the beauty industry, including working for huge players like L'Oréal and Estée Lauder. In 2021, they used their skills and knowledge in the space to launch Bonne, Brosse, and today the line features products for all hair types with a distinctive swirled handle design, high-quality bristles, and a range of colours. We caught up with them to hear about developing a new generation of hairbrushes. Fleur began by telling me about their goal to create products that bring moments of joy to the everyday.
If you think about it, a hairbrush, you're going to touch it every day for a very, very long time. You're going to keep it for 15 years, if not all your life. And we feel with Pauline that those tools that have been treated for years, if not centuries, as commodities, they deserve to bring you joy and they deserve to bring you happiness. So we see this more as like functional luxury than commodity. Hence why we put a lot of attention into the design, into the colors, into the shape, and the touch of the object.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I know there's lots of French heritage production involved. Your supplier is one of the last, I think, or maybe the last traditional French, the producer of acetate. But this feels to me like a product that could only be French. Do you know what I mean? Are you proud of that, if you agree?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. Actually, the brush industry is born in France, in the south of France, in a mountain region. And actually, it's a little bit like the perfume industry, the cosmetic industry. There is something very French in that part of the luxury business, we believe. And we were very surprised, actually, to realize that one of the best, or maybe the only one in the world, knowing how to make those beautiful brushes with this savoir-faire, this craftsmanship that we rediscovered through the creation of La Bonne Brosse, was actually an industry and an atelier that has a century-old history in the Oise Valley in France. So it was a surprise to us as well, but now we are quite happy and proud to be able to give it a new life.
Yeah, I love that point about this new life, the vitality. Talk to me about how the business fits into this newer idea of slow beauty. I think people are used to talking about slow journalism, certainly slow fashion, but slow beauty maybe people have been a little bit slower, ironically, coming round to. But it feels like your brand is so much part of that story. Do you agree with that? And if you do, why is that important?
Yeah, slow beauty to us was really part of the journey from day one. Actually, there is something very slow in the fact to make and to craft an object that you will keep for all your life. So it's slow. Nothing could be slower than that, in fact, because this is something that you craft and you will take it and live with it for your entire life if you take care of it in the right way. But also, this is an object that you carry with you, and every morning, every night, you touch it and you touch yourself with it. So this is really a new way of crafting products that give you joy, give you moments of pleasure, moments of relaxation. So for us, it's really kind of in French we say auto-massage. It's like a caress that you give to yourself. So for sure, this is slow beauty for us.
And especially knowing that Pauline and myself, we spent 20 years in the beauty industry. I mean, we've launched probably, the two of us together, we might have launched 500 products all together. And I think we came at this moment in our life where we wanted to do things differently. And I think none of us would have loved to launch another perfume brand or another skincare brand. We wanted to approach the bathroom with a different angle of coming to the market with a product that would not need replacement after 3 months, with a product that would really enter into women and men intimacy, something that would be passed on from generation to generation, a beautiful thing that you could gift. Like all of those elements were a little bit against everything we had done before in our earlier career, but also with that idea of beauty can be perpetual, and beauty can be something that is not thrown away. Beauty can be something that is truly to be kept for a lifetime.
Well, I wanted to ask you about this because you've mentioned your former accomplishments before, both of you respectively, and clearly you have a blend of useful skills here, you know, in the design space, the idea of styling beautiful objects, but just this broader understanding of what makes something arresting or playful or engaging. How much do you feel that this business and these products are the accumulation of all of that work that you've both done in your careers?
You know, it's funny. This question is very interesting because sometimes with Pauline, we're like, well, none of what we have learned so far is we use today at La Bonne Brosse, but we actually do use a lot of things that we've learned in our previous life, knowing that we worked for beauty giants. So it's like an academy, really. It was like going to university, starting our career at L'Oréal or at Estée Lauder. We've learned a lot. But the funny thing is we've learned very different things. So I don't know if you know, but we've met in our business school with Pauline, and we had similar job titles. So we were both general manager of big beauty brands, but at the end of the day, we're not really doing the same thing. So the genius of the product really, I have to say, comes to my happy partner, Pauline. Yeah, I mean, you really have an eye for how to design objects and pick colors and build concepts and build communication strategy around the brand. And I think this is probably what you had learned in the various companies you've worked for. Pauline had the chance to work for very creative brands and creative groups. On my side, I've been more trained to work on the commercial and sales aspect of things. So clearly, this is something that, I mean, I think we're very lucky with Pauline to be very complementary to one another. And she does stuff that I have no idea how to do, and the reverse is true as well. So I think this is what makes our duo works every day and very joyful as well, as joyful as the brush, I would say.
I just want to add that it's very funny because last week, actually, I met with my former boss, like randomly in a restaurant. And what I told him is the boss from Pooch, one of the company I used to work for. And what I told him is that if one thing I get from my previous experiences, and especially from him, was that we need to put value in the product. And this is exactly what I think we've done well in La Bonne Brosse. We put great value and efforts in the product, not only in the design, but also in the craft, in the making, in the values of the people that are actually creating the product. And I think in the end, this is what creates the possibility of an intimacy with the product. And I'm very grateful that I was part of a company really able to put value in the product. And I think even in the luxury business today, it's not always the trend we see. And this is really what we want to do here with Flore and with this company.
I want to ask you more about the specifics of the actual product. You've mentioned it there. I think it's a really important point of making that investment in the product. Tell us about what it actually does, because whether we're using a mix of the synthetic fibres or boar bristle, these things have it seems almost measurable, a transformational maybe impact on hair and scalp health. Can you tell us a bit about literally how the products drive this change?
And this is exactly it. It has a transformative power, and a lot of people do not know about it because they're not currently using a very high quality brushes. If you think about it, all of our grandmothers, they used to have very high quality brushes. And as Pauline was saying, the value was in the product. It was beautiful brushes that were made out of boar bristles. They were using it morning and evening. They had them in their bedrooms, on their beautiful coiffeurs, and they were made out of horns or they were made out of ivory, and they were keeping it for a lifetime. And then suddenly, God knows why, the production got moved to Asia, and we got lower quality brushes, if not bad quality brushes. And it doesn't do the same magic to your hair. Because what brushing your hair does with a bonne brosse, so with a good brush, is it does 3 magical things. The first one is it massages the scalp thoroughly. It's an automatic massage for the scalp. If you have the good quality of fibers, it will stimulate all of your blood cells in the scalp, meaning it will irrigate the root of the hair, making sure that the hair stay very healthy and stay with a lot of vitality. So that mechanical massage is probably the most important thing, and you can only achieve this if the hairbrush goes through your hair and massages the scalp. So that's why we've worked with Pauline with acupuncturists and scalp specialists to really understand, especially with a Japanese expert, how the scalp functions and how it can be optimized with that mechanical massage. The second benefit, if you've got very, very high quality bristles, and I think we've got the highest quality of bristles in the market, is that it takes the sebum that your scalp produces. The sebum is the greasy part that gets out of your scalp. And instead of keeping it at the roots, it does transfer it all across the length of your hair. And that magical thing is that instead of having greasy roots and having to wash your hair every other day or every day for some of us, it actually gives you a very shiny look, and it keeps your hair very, very clean. It's a natural cleansing for the hair. So that's why we always advise women and men to brush their hair before they go to bed. As they would take their makeup off or cleanse their skin, they have to brush their hair to take the dust away, the pollution away, etc. So that's 2 benefits. And we always love to say with Pauline, the third benefit is the feel-good factor. Your scalp is the second most innerved part of your body after your feet. And it has to be massaged to make you feel better. Everyone loves the scalp massage, of course, and you have to consider that by brushing your hair, you do massages your scalp, and that makes you feel extremely good.
I was furiously writing these things down. I need to improve my own regimen, you see.
And that's what we're the most... we knew the product was really good because of all the energy we put in sourcing the best quality fiber, the best material, the best craftsmen to do it. But what we were amazed by is the feedback we got from the consumers. Because, of course, with Pauline, we've been a bit brainwashed, right? Where we love brushing our hair. We've been doing it for 3 years now. But what we love is that women and men buying the brushes come back to us saying, it's amazing. Since I've started using it,
Yeah, I mean, I love that story, and that's very much like, I guess, Monocle's experience as well. You know, the importance that you place upon talking directly to your consumers, allowing their feedback to inform your decisions. I just wanted to ask you about, well, I guess it's a kind of about sustainability in a way, not so much about the materials that you use, but this idea of creating products that your users will keep, as you said, keep forever, beautiful objects. In a way, that's bad for the business model, right? Because they won't need to keep coming back to you time and again. Or tell me how that works. Or do you just want to make sure that they have La Bonne Brosse for every, I don't know, different locations? They get their friends involved? Because by making something that is so well crafted and that is so enduring, in a way, you're reducing your target market almost, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people before we started this company told us it's not a good business because you will sell one brush to one people and then you will never see him again. And actually, it's totally the contrary that is happening right now because we have a very, very high level of returning consumer. When you have a Bonne Brosse in your hand, you want your sister to have one, you want your best friend to have one, you want your mother to have one. And then there is also an aspect, and this is why we choose such a collectible item in a way that is colorful, joyful, with an iconic design, because when they have a Bonne Brosse, they want to talk about it, they want to gift it to other people, and this is our way to expand the business. We wanted to prove that another business model is possible. It was also part of the mission we wanted to have as female entrepreneurs, I think.
Yeah, and I think there's enough women in the world to continue our journey. We haven't really spoken to men yet, but I think men and their hair is another big topic. So ultimately, I think we might have a blue sky in front of us, and to add up on the mission, we're Pauline. We love to say we'd like every woman in the world to have a Bonne Brosse in her purse or in her vanity case as a product that she should have as a staple, really.
That was Flore de Robert and Pauline Laurent, the co-founders of La Bonne Brosse, and you can learn more by heading over to labonnebrosse.com. And that's all for this episode of The Entrepreneurs. We'll be back at the same time next week. Do look out for Eureka, available every Friday. The programme was produced by Laura Kramer, with audio editing by Tamsin Howard. You can listen again and find out more about the show by heading to monocle.com. And do be sure to stay tuned to Monocle Radio throughout the next 2 weeks, as our team on the ground in Paris brings you a unique take on an amazing couple of weeks. The eyes of the world are on the French capital as it welcomes the fastest and strongest. We'll train our Monocle lens not just on sport, but on soft power, culture, design, hospitality, and plenty more besides. Check out the schedule and listen live at monocle.com, or catch up with the shows there or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, if you'd like to contact the Entrepreneurs, why not email Laura on lrk@monocle.com. I'm Tom Edwards. Goodbye, and thanks for listening to The Entrepreneurs.